So one of the things I was able to point out early on was this unfortunate intersection that Donald Trump was able to exploit in the Republican Party. In this next clip, I really unpacked this. I really laid out the case for Donald Trump being unstoppable. I was hoping, a couple of times I was really hoping that someone would be able to beat him, but we really pointed it out because of what the Republican Party has been doing over the last 40 years, created the perfect storm that would lead to someone like Donald Trump. Take a listen to this
clip that I'll play for you. He's galvanizing the absolute worst in America in general, because it's not just, you don't find this level of bigotry only in Republican circles. You do find it in Democratic circles. However, it is prevalent in Republican circles, which is why Donald Trump is number one. Donald Trump is not number one because he has the establishment. Donald Trump is not number one because he has the evangelical base. Donald Trump is number one is because he's skimming from all of those groups, and he has solidified the bigot base. Now, notwithstanding the fact that he's pulling out all of the crazies, all the racists, all the xenophobes, all the homophobes, all the very worst dredges of society, notwithstanding that fact, he's also doing something that this article in the New Yorker, and you'll see the description and the links that he pointed out. And you who are already here may need to refresh, because that's the last thing I posted as the show was coming live. The article in the New Yorker is pointing out the fact that Donald Trump, because of the freedom of his money gives him, one, and because of his just natural bombastic attitude, Donald Trump is able to expose to America how imbecilic and childish and very simpleton our political process has been, and our political candidates have been. Particularly in this season, Donald Trump has been able to expose the weakness of every single candidate, and not a single candidate has been able to stop him. Now, with that comes all of the baggage that is Donald Trump, the vulgarity, the racism, the misogyny, just glaring, all these negative facets. And so you have this person who is rather disgusting, drumming up a very disgusting base, number one contender in the Republican primaries, yet he is exposing all of the worst things about our political process. And for that, I think this entire summer of Trump going into the fall of Trump has been worthwhile, because we are getting a chance to see exactly who is beholden to who. And you have a candidate who has no problem calling out every single person that took money from him, every person that's taken money from the Koch brothers, every person who has been beholden because of that money, all of these people who are weak and spineless. The Jeb Bush has no backbone and no, just nothing there. The article really goes into the fact that Jeb's really sad campaign slogan is his name with the exclamation point. But when Donald Trump got done with them, it was a semicolon. So the article is a great read. You should read it. But I really want to dig into this concept that a person like Donald Trump is capable of actually being good for America, not in the Oval Office, but simply by running, and exposing the very worst inside of the Republican Party in terms of the racist base, and then the very worst in the establishment party. And the other thing that he's exposing is that the Democratic Party is not really an outsider. The Democratic Party is the establishment. That's something that he's exposing to the benefit of America in general, because we like to think that Democrats are the populists. Democrats are the ones that are so in favor of the middle class, which, in holistically they may be. But Donald Trump is exposing the fact that he is an outsider, and the Republican base has rallied behind an outsider, yet the polls are not demonstrating that of the Democratic progressive base. Let me separate that sentence, because that's two totally different groups. The polls are not demonstrating that the Democratic base is rallying behind an outsider. Instead, it is rallying behind one of the most establishment candidates that we have ever had, which is Hillary Clinton. So Donald Trump is exposing all of these things, and he's not intending to. It's like a person who makes something good happen, and their intention was not to do something good. Right? Him being as imbecilic as he is accidentally exposing the fact that American politics is ridiculous. The machine is ridiculous. The amount of money that's involved and the amount that each candidate has been purchased, and they're not able to speak exactly how they would want to speak freely. He's exposing that all of our candidates are essentially Manchurian candidates because they have been programmed by the people they have to go to get support from. Now, all of that said, all of those things which are really good for the American democracy in general, you still have to look at the fact of who his number one supporters are. His number one supporters are the most xenophobic, racist, homophobic, ridiculous, asinine people that we have seen in public in a very long time. The only person who we see in public on a regular basis that represents Donald Trump's base is Ann Coulter. That's the type of person that Donald Trump invites and attracts to his campaign. And I just think that somewhere between the damage that he's doing by giving voice to all of these people who really need to be relegated to the dredges of our society, and between the good thing that he is doing by exposing how ridiculous our politicians are and how ridiculous our political process is, somewhere in between there, we're going to have to find a path that says we understand how ridiculous our politicians are, and we demand a better politician. But at the same time, we will not do it on the backs of these bigots, these homophobes, these xenophobes, these Islamophobes, and these racists that are making up the vast majority of Donald Trump's support base. So the question is, can we get something good out of this Donald Trump experience that he's taking all of America through, and leave the baggage, the negative baggage behind? Here's the problem with that. Donald Trump is doing good. Donald Trump is performing better than anyone imagined. And it doesn't look like he's going anywhere. And no matter how many people, yes, yesterday Scott Walker dropped out. He dropped out on the underneath the premise that he wanted to make room for another conservative alternative to Donald Trump. The problem is Scott Walker did not have any real supporters. He was at, like, after the CNN poll, the ORC poll yesterday, he was at less than 1%, which means no matter how much he feels he was sacrificing one for the team, he did not have enough supporters to help anyone. And I guarantee you're going to see this effect. The more people drop out in order to oppose Trump, the more the base is going to be rallied behind Trump, because the base absolutely loathes and hates the GOP establishment. So they will see this. They will see this, and they will think that, or they will be repulsed, because it is a move by the establishment to overthrow their candidate of choice. That will backfire ultimately. That's not going to play well with the base. So Scott Walker's biblical sacrifice, because yesterday in his press conference, he gave his, he wrapped everything in the Bible, right? That's what GOP politicians do. He wrapped everything in the Bible. And so his biblical sacrifice will be in vain, because the people who support Trump do not want an establishment candidate. And that is the problem that the GOP has not come to terms with. They have not come to terms with the fact that they have created a base that hates the establishment and loves this type of vitriol that Donald Trump gives them on a regular basis.